All right. Welcome back to another live Q&A with Mark and Alicia here, Canadian immigration lawyers based in Alberta, Canada, the best province in the country for sure. Hi, Alicia. How are you?
I'm well. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Oh,
Wearing my green, Mark. There you go. There you go.
I've been keeping this thing for like a whole year to be able to use it. I even have my suspenders, which I forgot. It's been one of those days today where, yeah. Oh man. Okay. Well, maybe I'll wear it for the video this afternoon. The suspenders with Lou on the study permits, which is going to be crazy. All right. Well, welcome everybody, and those of you who are watching the YouTube channel and were wondering what the heck is going on. Mark's got this video here about COVID hitting the Holte family. Well, I clicked on the wrong link, and that was an old one that I'd done. And so we're back together here, and this is the right place, and you're in the right place. Those of you who are tuning in from Facebook and Twitter, welcome to you. Also, welcome to those that are tuning in on the Canadian Immigration Podcast, listening to this as an audio recording, which we're now also starting to do. So, yeah, so happy St. Patrick's Day to you, Alicia. I've got my fancy little St. Patrick's hat. My wife, she wanted me to throw this out last year after I did the video. And I said, no, I'll just keep it. And so, hey, it's come around and awesome. So
You saved it. You saved it.
I did. Okay, so let's give a couple shout outs here. And I'm going to shrink this down just a touch and expand this out here. So we've got Ralph, who's in the house. Good to see you, Ralph. He says he's the Canadian Immigration Institute fan. And we've got Bokang, who says, hi, everyone. Hi, Mark. South Africa is in the house. Yes, South Africa is in the house. Hello to you. Thesura, our longtime follower here. He says, hi, Mark. Hope you're doing great. It's good to see you, Thesura. And then, of course, here we've got Vishal, who says, hey, Mark, are you all right? Just saw you launched a live seconds ago. Steering COVID has fought up. Not quite sure what that means, but basically, yeah, caught up with the Holte family, I think is what it was. So those of you who are watching on YouTube, just ignore that one and I'll delete it. Okay, let's see who else we have here. This is Zoha. It says, hello, this is Zoe from Mumbai, India. We love your work. Great. Thank you for joining in. And Anitha says, glad to see you, Alicia and Mark. And she's got a nice smiley heart-faced emoji here, which is great. Okay, Bakang says, if we could like each other's comments, I would like yours, Ralph and Thesura. What loyalty. See, that's the kind of group that we've got building here. This is awesome. And hello from Abby, who is in Riyadh, KSA. Welcome, Abby. All right. Oh, here's an interesting one. We're already getting into the questions. Oh, why not? Mohammed says, and this is a good lead in, Alicia, if I tested positive for COVID during last month, do I still need to show a negative PCR test at the port of entry to Canada? And so well, ultimately what's going to happen as of April the 1st is that mandatory testing is going to disappear. So I'm going to shift my screen over here. Let's see if we've got this lined up. Oh, not bad. This is the one we want. So you can see here, they recently made an announcement just yesterday, I think it was. Let's see, when was this released? This was
Today.
Oh, look at this. Don't you love this? So it says it was last updated March 11th, which of course it wasn't. So today, I think, was when it was updated. And you can see here, it says starting April the 1st of 2022, pre-entry tests will no longer be required for fully vaccinated travelers entering Canada by land, air, or water. Until then, follow the pre-entry test requirements. So, yeah, so ultimately, I can speak from my own experience. Having had COVID in January, I needed to provide a basic confirmation of the positive test result, and that it's interesting, Alicia, on the US side, when I was traveling down, they wanted a letter from my physician saying that I had recovered from COVID in addition to the positive test result. So, and I think it was 120 days, I think is what the window of time is. But yeah, so shifting back to the question here from Mohammed, he says, if I tested if I tested positive last month, do I still need to show a negative PCR test? Well, it's going to be hard for you to do that if you've tested positive, because it tends to linger in the system. So I don't know
And
if
it
you have any
also
thoughts on
depends.
that, Alicia.
It depends with Mohammed if you're fully vaccinated as well, because if you're not fully vaccinated, then, they still require those proofs until April 1st. So it also depends when you're planning to travel and coming actually to the port of entry.
Yes. All right. Okay. So we'll do a couple more shout outs here. Rohit is here in the house. Love from Toronto. Amy is here. Good morning, Mark and Alicia. Let's see who else we have here. Muhammad says he's happy. Muhammad is happy. That's great. And then Bukang has got a big shout out for Alicia here. This is great. And then we've got our faithful followers who are soon to come here. Anastasia, seeing you live makes my evenings much better. Alicia, you're the best. Oh, these are great. And then we've got
And
a whole bunch. Oh, yeah, sorry.
Anastasia and Amy, her husband, and Bokang are all going to be in Canada soon. So that's great.
Very, very exciting. Very exciting. And we've got lots of South African flags from JAMA. And Alvis says, happy St. Patrick's Day. And right back at you, our friend. And then we have happy Holly, guys. So I'm not sure the connection. I imagine it's a holiday that is kind of tied to the same day, maybe as St. Patrick's Day here. So let's see what else we have here. Joe says hello. And then we've got Callum. Callum, thanks for the awesome email that you sent. Alicia, Callum had sent me an email a little while back, just thanking for the help and assistance and him navigating his way through what was a complex, problem, wasn't it, Callum? And he's landing in Calgary on June the 8th. And so keep up with the hope. Thank you, my friend. That's great. Okay. And Fernando is Panama City. And we have a great, a great group following us today. And Sam says, I might have a job in Winnipeg. We'll find out in the next couple of days. Well, that's good, Sam. Hope that works out for you. Callum says, and buy the course. So thank you, Callum. I appreciate that shout out. He's also one of the past alumnus of the Express Entry class. And one thing I do want to let everybody know is that, and I'm going to shift my screen over here, those who are interested in attending the spousal sponsorship class, we had a little bit of a delay, I guess you could describe it, in launching this. And so we've decided to push it off until the following week, which I think is the 28th. And so we'll update this, but all you have to do is just click here and it will take you to where you can reserve a spot. And all you need to do is just leave your name and your email address, and then we'll notify you the moment the course goes live. All right. Okay, I'm just going to adjust this a little bit, make it fit a little better if I can. It's always interesting getting this website lined up. Okay. I think we're just about through the shout outs. All of the rest of you, hello and welcome for joining us. And what we'll do is we'll kickstart right now. Those of you, if you have questions, you can start posting them now, and we'll start answering those questions. Before we do that, I just have a couple other little housekeeping things that we'll take care of. One of them, if we slide over here, is the fact that yesterday we did, have our draw. So, and this is driving me crazy, Alicia, because this is not fitting on my screen the way I want it to. I love the fact that I'm just like doing this on the fly. Hey, that's better. Okay, so basically the round of invitations happened yesterday, another PNP only draw. Many people are asking, when are they going to do another one? I'm still holding out now that it's going to be the end of Q2, beginning of Q3, right around July. We might hopefully see some more draws, but at this stage, the PNPs are still on a fairly regular basis, still flowing. So we just wanted to let everybody know about that, as if you didn't already. And then those of you who have been following what's happening in Ukraine, I don't know how you could not know what is going on there. But one of the things I want to give Alicia a big shout out to is she's kind of the face of our firm when it comes to the pro bono initiative that is being sponsored by the Canadian Bar Association's immigration section. And anyone that you know of that is that needs help and needs assistance, there is a amazing growing group of lawyers and firms. And you can see Alicia's right here. She's our point of contact for our firm to offer pro bono assistance to people who are being negatively affected by this. And all they have to do is click on Get Free Help here on the website. And for those of you who are listening, it's all you really have to search is CBA Pro Bono Ukraine Crisis, and it will take you to this site. But it's cba.org/for-the-public/crisis-in-request-pro-bono-assistance. So that's the URL, and it will take you to where you can individuals can leave their name and their email address and actually choose which lawyer and which firm that they want to reach out to. So just letting everybody know about that, and a big shout out to Alicia for taking the lead on that. So thank you. All right. Any updates on that, Alicia? Any, like, with the experience that you've had helping people and people reaching out?
It's tricky right now. So Igor is also part of the whole the immigration law team, and he and I and 3 other immigration lawyers were on a Canadian Bar Association Facebook live Q&A last week. And he said a lot of people are really struggling for information in the Ukrainian language because there's not a lot of information out there. And so one thing that we've also done is I wrote a blog article when the immigration announced that there were going to be new measures. So that's on our website. And then Igor actually went and took the initiative and translated that all into Ukrainian. And that's on our website as well. So if people are looking for Ukrainian language, it's there. If you want to link to that CBA Q&A, then Igor was actually translating our question and answers there also. So that's another Ukrainian language resource. It's tricky right now because they announced this, that they were going to do it on March 3rd, but they haven't given the details yet of these 2 new programs. And this is where people are struggling because it's now been 2 weeks, and we still don't have the details on the new emergency travel measures, and we don't have the details on the new sponsorship program for Ukrainian citizens either. So we know they're coming, we're just not sure what the specifics are going to be. So a lot of people are stuck in the situation of trying to figure out, well, do I apply for a regular TRV to Canada right now? Or do I wait and try to do an application through this new emergency measures program? And it's a tough call. And so that's most of the consults that I've been doing with people have been trying to provide them information. Here's what's going on. Maybe you can start preparing documents that you'll likely need, but it's kind of like the TR to PR. We don't know exactly what is going to be required right now.
I was going to just pull it up, and oh my goodness, Alicia, I'm so tired of 2-factor authentication. Yet another reason why Facebook is not my friend. So anyways, you can see here, as I was Googling this, as you guys were watching, this is real time. If you go to the Canadian Bar Association, the CBA immigration, and the link is, I share it right here. I'm going to improvise once again here, and I'm going to stretch this up. Try to keep this a little bit clean, but you can see up at the top here, there's the URL, facebook.com/CBA immigration. And you can go there to access the basically the live stream that Alicia was talking about, that she did with Anna. And who else was on there? It was you, Anna, and Igor, and
Bjorna.
And Bjorna, yes.
And Nicole was hosting. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So check that one out, and there'll be a little bit more information. And as we learn more, we will let people know. All right. Okay. Well, let's continue forward here now, and we'll get to, that is true. 2-factor is better than getting hacked. You're right. It is. Except when it's Facebook, and I could care less if someone hacked my Facebook. Okay, so now's the time you can post your questions, and we will go through them. And obviously, there's a lot of interest in processing times, when things are going to get processed, how much longer we have to wait, and so so understand that there's not a lot of insight that we can share on processing time. So if I skip past, I submitted my application on this day, when is it going to be processed? That's really something we're probably going to bypass this video because we have no more insight than you guys do. All right, let's jump in here. And okay, Elvis says, from Lima, Peru, happy St. Patrick's Day. By the way, where's your beer, Mark? Well, you know what, Alva, I'll let you drink the beer for me, my friend. You can drink it. Okay, here's the first question. This is from Rohith. I submitted my OINP application from India, then moved to Canada while processing. Updated OINP about this, and they nominated me successfully. Do I transfer my funds from India to Canadian bank accounts?
Hmm. Well, I guess it's partially depending on what kind of application you submitted under which category, but generally, yeah, you do have to be able to prove that you've got those settlement funds. And just be careful in terms of what the residency requirements are for the bank to see if they're able to open you an account if you don't have status yet. I don't know if you have a work permit or what your status in
Yeah, it just says
Canada
they
is.
moved to Canada, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes, anecdotally, I've heard that people are not able to open a Canadian bank account and if they only have a visitor record, so they'll need something more permanent showing that they have work authorization here. Um, so it's tough to tell based on what you've got there, but in terms of the settlement funds requirement, make sure that you meet the federal settlement funds requirement, and that figure tends to go up a little bit in the spring. We haven't seen it yet bump up, but go take a look at the low income cutoff guideline and then the settlement fund requirements, which may shift a little bit. And if the OINP is requiring you to have a certain amount of money to live on, and maybe if you're not working, I don't know if you are, for sure you've got to maintain that amount so that it's proving that you're not going to have to go on any form of social assistance and you're self-supporting while you're here in Canada waiting for your PR.
Excellent. Okay, so this one is from Enjoyneering Story. at so this person is at the post AOR stage and recently got married. What if I don't declare my spouse to IRCC? So this is post AOR. I asked this as in one of your videos, you said MP Hussein got the law amended. Will I be able to declare my spouse later? Okay, I'm not quite sure what this is referencing, but Alicia, why don't you take a tackle at this one?
I think maybe they were looking at the exemptions to 117.9D, but only on those spousals, maybe. But okay, no. If you got married and you have your AOR and that's a material change in the circumstances of your application, then you have a positive obligation to notify immigration that there has been a change, that you are now legally married to your spouse. And so you'll want to update, I don't know what kind of application you've submitted, but you'll want to update immigration. And if you have your AOR, that's good because you have your file number. So at least you can do that web form inquiry, link it to your file number for your application, provide the details for your name, date of birth of the spouse, and usually the marriage certificate, a certified translation of that marriage certificate if it's not in English. Make sure it's the civil marriage certificate, the one that's the legal one. If you had a religious marriage also, you need that civil marriage certificate. If you fail to disclose your spouse, then you can be found to have misrepped, and that's a 5-year bar, and it's a 5-year bar for you, and it's a 5-year bar for your spouse. There was very limited circumstances where in only certain types of applications, usually spousals or refugee applications, if there was a really solid reason why you did not know that you were supposed to declare a family member and they are now barred because of the operation of 117 sub 9 sub D, in certain circumstances, and it's very specific, there's a possibility to still try to turn around and sponsor that person. But the normal rule is that if you fail to declare a spouse or an immediate family member, a child, even if you didn't know that the child existed, the case law used to be that you are forever barred from sponsoring that person. They are legally considered not to be a member of your family class. This is really, really bad. And I would not rely on those narrow exemptions under H&C considerations. And you can't do that if your actively failing to disclose a spouse, right? It's misrep. And so that would
Yeah.
make you inadmissible. So make sure you just declare your spouse properly, and it may result in them sending a bunch more forms and a bunch more information. And do be careful, because if you are
Yeah.
doing a federal skilled worker application, you're going to now need to show that you can meet the settlement funds for a family group of 2 rather than a family group of 1.
Yeah. And I'll give a little background on this too. So in the early days of my practice, I was approached by a young girl. She had just turned 18. She came from Malawi. She was in a refugee camp, and she was a government placed refugee. And when she went through, she was married at the age of, I think, 16. And someone had given her the helpful advice not to disclose her husband, because then she wouldn't be included in the family group that was immigrating to Canada. And so so when she got here, the application, we tried to do what we could to kind of save it, but it was refused. Section 179D, and so we had to go back and challenge through H&C. And really the provision now that he's referring to, Minister Huson, our former Minister of Immigration, to removed. Like Alicia said, this is a very, very narrow exemption. And one thing to be very clear, all of you economic immigrants, it does not apply to you. So,
Right.
yep, it is. This is very, very narrow exceptions. And in all honesty, I recommend that, if you do have questions about this, we do this all the time, helping people add and kind of almost preempt immigration, what they're asking. We know what they want, and we help our clients put it together and kind of submit it proactively. But go ahead and book a consult, and we can walk you through that process. Okay, this one is Osama says, hello, Mark from Tunisia. Any news about the FSWP? Okay, we're going down this path, but that's okay. I think we're all right going down this question. They decreased the number of selected candidates in the last PNP draw. Is that a good sign that they are preparing to reprocess FSWP? And I think federal skilled worker, I think ultimately, as many people know, I had a consult this morning. They're working through the backlogs. And often the questions I get are from Indian nationals who say, what is taking so long? I thought they were supposed to be processing. What's going on? Should I request the GCMS notes? Should I do an ATIP? Should I talk to my member of parliament? And the reality, you guys, is that many, many, many of you FSWs are going through a very, very narrow spot. When there's over 35% or whatever of total express entry candidates are coming, our Indian nationals, there are large volumes of you all trying to go through the same visa offices. And they have to put a visa in your passport. It's a physical act. And there's only so many officers to do it. They're not equipped, even in the best of circumstances, to funnel through all of these people that they're working through. And so it just takes time. And in this case, the client had filed, we did a collaborative review last year in February. And so they've crossed over a year. And I said, look, realistically, don't panic. You are just in the queue. And so that's what we see. Now, Alicia, when it comes to the PNP draw being decreasing in numbers, can you shed any light on this? Do they really just decrease it because they want to let fewer PNPs in? Or is it just a product of those in the pool?
Yeah. And it's probably just a product of those in the pool, right? Like who happens to be sitting in that PNP pool at this point of time for that province, and do they meet the requirements of the programs? Because every provincial nominee program is a little bit different. They all have different subcategories, and they will do draws to kind of pull out different people, different subcategories of candidates.
Mm-hmm. And you can see here the low score was 754. So really, from a human capital standpoint, the lowest person had 154 human capital points. And so the bar has not been raised here in terms of the CRS score. It's still quite low. And the reason their number of invitations was only 924 is because realistically, there were not that many in the pool as there were in the previous rounds, which if we flip back here and let's see if this opens up, there we go. And then we scroll down, you can see that the lowest scores, in fact, in the one where 1,047 was drawn, The lowest score was actually 761, the comprehensive ranking system score. So that was 2 weeks ago. So yeah, the number of invitations issued, they're flushing everybody out pretty much. I don't know if there's anyone that wouldn't be flushed out. And yeah, it just depends on the candidates that are actually in the pool at that time. All right, let's continue here. Okay, this is another tough one, Alicia. So Ivo from Brazil. Hola, Ivo, ¿cómo está? Postgrad work permit expired in January. See, this is the problem. Why is the minister not just announcing another 18-month pilot for postgrad work permit holders? So Philippe, it looks like, so Ivo says, had to quit my job and apply for a study permit to stay in Canada. Can I expect a public policy for postgrad work permit holders soon? What are your thoughts on this? I'm getting a little frustrated now with Minister Fraser. I don't know what the rationale for not doing it is.
I'm hoping there'll be an announcement, maybe in conjunction with the Ukraine measures, maybe not, but it's really hard. I have a whole bunch of clients who are in this situation right now where their postgrad work permit's expiring or has expired within this month or is coming up within another month or two, and they don't know what to do. Some of them are sitting at over 500 points on their CRS score, and they're stuck because they've had to quit their jobs, they've had to transition to other status. They're trying to figure out, how long do I stay in Canada? Do I go back home? Do I pack it in and hope for an FSW draw? Maybe there won't be an FSW draw if they just do CEC draws. What do I do? And there's not a lot of really good answers right now because we're waiting for the immigration minister to hopefully announce some sort of bridging program to allow hopefully another 18-month open work permit.
Yes. And I'll draw everyone's attention back to, maybe we should rename this, change the title. So the title of the blog that Alicia did on December the 15th. So we knew this was coming before, even this as it's unfolding before our eyes. It's the blog post on our website, healthylaw.com, and you can just go to our resources section and then click on blog, and you'll find how long can I stay in Canada after my work permit expires. And so this is far, far more comprehensive than just answering that particular question. But Alicia shares a number of things that you can do, from immediate action to, the implications of whatever choices you make, including people who choose to switch to a study permit. And it just breaks my heart, Alicia, because people are being forced to go back, or feel like they're forced to go back and pay that 3 times the tuition again, thousands and thousands of dollars just to try to maintain their status. And once your postgrad's burned up, you're not getting another one after you complete your studies.
Yeah. And go read the article that I put on there because it has helped some people. I have a few clients who had applied with a good number of points on Express Entry last year, hoping that there'd be another draw. And they were primarily French speaking. They had their TEF results. And then they said, well, my English is pretty good. Should I do IELTS? Yes, go do IELTS, right?
Yes.
If you have and vice versa, if you had English scores, but you actually have a decent knowledge of French, go do your French exam, because hopefully that difference in your scores might bump you up if and when there is a draw. So that's one thing easily that you can do. There are some specific French stream mobilité francophone programs that could be available to some people. A lot of what I'm getting right now for consultations are employers who are saying, I want to keep these people. Do I have to go down the labor market impact assessment route? And in some cases, yeah, that might be the only way to be able to continue to have them work, is to transition from a PGWP to an employer-specific closed work permit. But if an LMIA is in your future, you need to start probably yesterday.
Yeah,
because it
immediately.
requires 4 weeks of advertising continuously, very specific advertising and recruiting requirements. You can't have one word wrong in your advertising. Then that application has to go into ESDC. The posted processing times right now for Service Canada or ESDC, 72 business days. 72 business days on top of your 4 weeks of advertising. So you're looking at least 4 months probably before you get a decision on that LMIA.
Yeah. Yeah. It is not it's for any people. I just wish that I wish the minister would just make the announcement, at least give people a little bit of breathing room. Um, no one would have anticipated, and I don't even think IRCC fully appreciated the impact of stopping the CEC and those rounds of invitations. So
Yeah.
all right. Just a little clarification here from Enjoy Nearing. She says, sorry for the confusion. Holly is the Festival of Colors. Of course it is. This year, both St. Patrick's Day and Holi are on the same day. And with that being said, I'm going to scroll back up here because we have a connection here with Callum, who's saying by the course. And those of you who are, I can give you a little view, those who are listening. It's Callum. His picture is, I think, from Holi. His face is all colored in paint, and he's got this bright yellow colored face and blue smeared all up in his hair, and that's his handle, his YouTube profile image. So there you go. There's the connection. And I remember asking Callum about that. That was quite a colorful, quite a colorful picture. So very, very cool. Okay. And then we have Thesura. He just says, my express entry application got updated to medicals passed. That's right, Thesura. I forgot you don't yet have your landing through. And so he got his passed AOR January. I think it was, well, you say AOR January 2022. Thesura, I thought it was earlier than that. I thought it was 2021. But anyways, regardless, it's happy to see that things are moving forward for you. Okay, let's jump to the next question. And let's see here. Okay, I think, and anyone like Fred has asked the same question about why is it taking so long? He says, I applied for my PR on October the 29th and got an update on January that all assessments were passed except for security, and they've requested for me to provide residential address. Why does it take a while? I think we've answered that one. In many cases, depending upon the country that you're going through, but also, we can look to the Afghan crisis. We can look to the Ukraine crisis. We can look to the shortage of officers, their inability to hire officers, the time it takes to train them. So all of those are factors that definitely play into the delays.
The other thing too, Fred, is if they're asking for an updated residential address, they might be looking to try to see whether you need new police certificates and where you've been residing. And so if you know that you're going to need to go get new police certificates, you maybe want to take a look at doing that proactively too.
Yes. Yep. And and here's another tricky one. This one's from Amy. And so Amy says, FSW Outland, AOR September the 19th, 2020, India. Stuck on the background eligibility check. Does providing upfront medicals, proof of funds, and PCC help expedite or perhaps revive the file? And it's interesting, Alicia, because I just had this discussion with clients in India just this morning before we went live. And they're in the same situation, but in their situation, it's really tough because they've been delaying having their second child from when they started the process 3 years ago. Now that child is 7 or 8, and they're at the stage where we just can't wait any longer. And so there is no guarantee that it's going to trigger or cause an officer to look at your file faster than they normally would. But it's my opinion that if you do, and you know that it's been over a year, you're outside of Canada, there's no harm going ahead and getting upfront medicals if the panel physician will do it, updating your proof of funds, getting new PCCs, and even in some crazy instances, updating your Schedule A's, which are also something that they're starting to ask now, and just upload them all through a web form. If those are all on the file and the officer is getting ready to send the request out and they're like, wait a minute, it's all here already, then there's not going to be a need to send a request. What you'll get is a passport request. But it could result in you doing things that maybe you wouldn't otherwise need to do, spending money that maybe you wouldn't otherwise need to spend. But for sure, it would potentially, I guess to some extent, expedite the actual finalization and the passport request. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Alicia. And obviously, this is as much speculation as anything, but I think there's some substance to it.
Yeah, like it's probably not going to affect their background and eligibility checks well, maybe eligibility, but not background checks for security, But if they're concerned about proof of funds, then if you provide updated proof of funds and you've got good evidence on that and updated police certificates and medicals, if they are maybe worried about inadmissibility for some reason, for medical reasons, then it can't hurt. But as Mark said, you're paying for extra tests and extra results, right? To make sure to go book those medical appointments and the new police certificates. But if they're going to ask for you to get those anyways, then you might as well be proactive and then prevent about another 30-day delay where they issue that letter requesting you to provide all the documents, giving you 30 days to do it, and then having to review it. So basically, it's saving you a little bit of time.
Yeah. Okay, this one is from Gail, and he says, "Hi Mark, hi Alicia. Does the stage, open quote, ready for visa, close quote, mean it is 100% sure the PR application is approved and will go through? Thanks very much in advance."
It's definitely a positive sign, right? The officer seems to be saying that they are ready to approve this visa, but keep in mind that anything can change, right? If your circumstances have changed and you need to notify them of a change, that can affect the application. Um, it's a PR application, so that's good, which is different than the temporary residence application for a study permit or work permit, because sometimes what happens is you just get a letter, and then when you arrive at the border, the document actually has to be issued by an officer at the port of entry. On a PR application, same thing, you get approved in principle, but you have to confirm all of your spousal information, kids, if you may have had kids in the last few years. Has that affected then your settlement funds if you're looking at FSW? So just because they say they're ready to grant it doesn't necessarily mean that you still meet the program requirements. Hopefully you do, but you have an obligation to prove that you still do.
Yes. And one other thing I'll point out on the PR side is that things can still go south in a hurry. If you arrive at the port of entry, you're nominated by the province of Prince Edward Island, and you're coming to stay in Ontario. And the
Yeah.
officer says, "Oh, what is your address?" "Oh, it's in Toronto. I've got all my cousins and I'm so excited to land in Canada." And they look and see, "Oh, you've been nominated by the province of Prince Edward Island." And so you therefore no longer have the ability to demonstrate an intention to reside in PEI. So I'm going to
Mhm.
unravel the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so no, it's never 100% slam dunk guarantee, but yeah, bearing everything else moving forward, ready for visa is a good sign that they've cleared the majority of stuff. Okay. Okay, this one is from Violetta, and this is a little bit more of a broad, open-ended question, and we'll try to pull some stuff out of it. But they say, do I need an LMIA to apply for a work visa? Also, do I need a job offer to apply for a work visa? So maybe you can just
Mhm.
break those down a little bit so people understand the distinctions.
Sure. So I talk about this a little bit in the article that Mark was showing from our blog, but also so if you look at this, I break it down into, well, if you are going to apply for a different type of work permit, then there's two basic types of work permits. There are ones that fall under what's called the Temporary Foreign Worker Program, which generally always require a labor market impact assessment. So I have this little chart. There's the TFWP, which is usually always LMIA required. And then there's the International Mobility Program, which is generally exempt from requiring a labor market impact assessment. So what a labor market impact assessment is it's a market test. Canadian employers have to prove that they have gone to the public in Canada, Canadian permanent residents and citizens, and said, I have a job, I'd like to hire for it. And if no qualified Canadian permanent residents or citizens apply, they don't fit the requirements of the job, then and only then can the company, the Canadian company, offer that job to a foreign national. So in most circumstances, people will need the company to go out and get their labor market impact assessment. So keep in mind, this is an employer's application. It is submitted by the Canadian employer to not to immigration, to ESDC or Service Canada. It's also called Service Canada. And if the employer is approved, then the applicant, the employee, can then apply for their work permit, usually online from outside of Canada. For some other programs under the IMP, it is a job offer required program. So there's what's called the employer portal, where the employer can go on if they are LMIA exempt. There have to be really good um, or very specific reasons why they're LMIA exempt. So there's different LMIA exemption codes. You can look them up on IRCC's website. Usually it's because there's a free trade agreement that's in place or some sort of bilateral agreement like International Experience Canada if kids are doing exchanges and they're under usually 35 years of age. So if your employer doesn't need an LMIA, then usually the employer does need to go give an offer of employment through the employer portal. They will get an A number and order receipt number, which they show that they've paid the fees. But they're basically telling immigration that they have given you an offer, they're going to abide by the terms and conditions and uphold regular employment standards codes and all other human rights legislation in Canada, for example, and they can be audited under either program. Immigration officers or ESDC officers can follow up and say, has the Canadian employer upheld their end of the bargain? Have they treated all their foreign national workers fairly and in accordance with what they said they're going to do at the LMIA stage or the employer portal offer stage?
Excellent. Thank you. All right. So let's keep moving forward here. And I'm just looking, we've got Anushka. I'll say thank you to you. I can't find your question. And then we also have another one. And when you do your super chats, guys, make sure you put your questions with them, and then it makes it a little bit easier for me to find them. But thank you. If it's a donation to the cause, we appreciate that as well. Okay, let's take a look here. And yeah, we've got lots of questions that we've already answered. Yash says, any luck on the 18-month work permit extension policy? My friend, things are not moving forward in at least as fast as I would like them to move forward. And I'm sure the vast majority of people as well. Okay. This maybe is a nice lead in too. So Solomon asked the question, Alicia, can I get help with pointers for LOE for study permit? So this is obviously the education, the statement of purpose. I am Nigerian resident in Abu Dhabi with managerial position with siblings in Canada, citizens considering study permit approval rates for Nigerians. So what are your thoughts on, this? Now, obviously we've got, you've got the blog post, which I'll direct people back to as well, but yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, take a look at the blog post. I wrote top 10 reasons that study permits get refused. And there are quite a few hopefully helpful concepts in that article about why study permits get refused. Specifically, if you're looking at applying through Abu Dhabi, take a look at the visa-specific instructions page for Abu Dhabi. And at the very end of that, it talks about what you should be including in your letter of intent or your study permit plan. And it has some very specific pointers on there as well. So they really want to know what are your ties to your home country, especially if you've got Canadians here, then there's a big pull for you to be in Canada. What's going to draw you back to Nigeria? How are you going to prove that this Canadian education is going to be useful and a logical step in your career progression back in Nigeria? So finances are important. Making sure that you can prove that you can pay for however long your program is. Make sure that everything in there is absolutely correct. If you've applied before and been refused for study permits, if there's been anything that's been problematic with your family members' applications when they came to Canada, those are all things to consider. So take a look at that article, take a look at the visa-specific instructions, because there's some helpful ideas about what immigration wants to see on those letters of intent.
Okay, let's jump to our next question. And there's so many you guys that are asking about processing times and why is it stuck and what's going on, and we feel for you. And those are answers that I wish we could just open this, look into this crystal ball and say, look, this is exactly what's going to happen. Now, interestingly enough, when I look at the direction the government is going, about 3 weeks ago now it's been, we had a special meeting with immigration where we met with the client relationship manager person, the client experience division within immigration. And one of the things is some of you are probably seeing now on the spousal side, they are opening up mechanisms to be more transparent with where application processing is at, where you can see much more clearly at what stage you're really at. And they're rolling it out through the spousal, and it's slowly, being sent out to people that have applications in the queue. And I know for a fact they're going to start rolling it out to the economic programs as well, which will help significantly so that people at least know where things are at. And this whole world is shifting, Alicia. I on the study permit topic, one of the things that I want to bring up is, I'm going to share my screen here. Those of you who are listening to this, I'm not sure, it might already be past, but on the YouTube channel and across our channels, I have a special live stream coming up this afternoon. We're recording this at 11 a.m. Mountain Time on Thursday, March the 17th. But on March the 17th at 2:30 p.m., I have a very special, somewhat controversial live stream that I'm doing with my good friend Lou. And Lou is an immigration lawyer based in Ottawa, I believe. And you know what? We're so virtual in what we do. I'm not even sure where his physical office is, in Ontario anyways. And I just had a meeting with Lou this morning, and we talked about the nature of this live stream. And it's all about approval ratings on study permits. So if you go back to the Immigration Nation playlist on the YouTube channel, you'll be able to find the previous one that we did, Lou and I, on the approval ratings by country. So when people are applying for study permits, are the approval ratings different based on the source country from where you're applying? And the answer was clearly yes. But the interesting part of this one is that he has data from the government. It's not, some subject to any interpretation or anything. It's the hard data on the approval ratings by designated learning institution, by school. And so the question is, does it make a difference where you're accepted to study in Canada on the likelihood of getting your study permit approved or rejected? Does it make a difference where you go? And the short answer, without divulging any magical, mystery here, is that yes, it does. There are some schools that have higher approval ratings than others, and I'll leave it at that because I don't want to get into trouble here. But it does play a role. It plays a role between public and private. There's a role played between university and college. And, I looked, one of the things we're going to talk about is Lethbridge College. So I'm going to pull that up because it's very interesting to see. So not only is it by school, but also by source country. So those different metrics, we're going to share some insight. We're going to try to keep it general. And obviously, just because a school has a lower approval rate doesn't mean that the school is bad. And it also has a direct relation on which the major source country is where students are coming from. And let's face it, schools have education agents that are, that like to target certain countries, but the approval ratings are only going to go down in the coming years, regardless, across the board. And that's what we're going to talk about. So if you have not had a chance to connect and to set the reminder on your YouTube channel to tune in and watch this at 2:30 p.m. Mountain Time, you absolutely have to do it. It is so insightful, and it's going to be just probably one of the best live streams that I've done on Immigration Nation. So make sure you head over there and join us. And there'll be, there's going to be just some really insightful things that Lou is going to share with me and with all of the viewers. So definitely go and check that out. Okay, let's get a couple more questions here. Let's see here. Okay, this is kind of a tricky one. This is from Harpreet. And Harpreet says, hello, Alicia. I submitted my PR under the PNP non-express entry without employer restrictions and applied for a bridging open work permit with the nomination letter from the province, but without AOR. Will they approve my bridging open work permit? Yeah.
So there's a very specific website on IRCC's page. I'll copy it. I had it open because I was reviewing this with another client just recently. I'll paste this for you, Mark.
Yep.
But There are very specific requirements for eligibility for provincial nominees. And generally, if it's not employer specific, that's one of the things they look at. So here we go, specific eligibility, provincial nominees, they have to have been provided with their application the nomination letter issued by the nominating province or territory that says that it's unrestricted. And it actually, if you go down, it actually shows that template letter. So what it looks like. Most of the provincial nominee programs will give the candidates a letter. I don't think you mentioned which province, but most of them look like this. And if it says no employer, or if it even has an employer name, but it still says no restrictions, then that's great. You should be eligible for the Bridging Open Work Permit. But the problem is that you have to have received that letter of nomination to provide them proof that you've submitted your application and been properly nominated by the province. So take a look at this because this is the immigration program manual. This is what the officers will review when they're looking at your application. And this is going to be probably the best source for you to compare to see what you did, what stage you were at, whether you were able to submit that application properly. So,
Perfect. All right. Okay, let's let's jump in here to the next one. Here's another good question. This is from Mohammed. He says, as an international student, can I travel to the US to see my cousins and return back? We know virtually nothing about your situation, Mohammed, but we'll make some assumptions that you have a study permit that is valid, and even that if you need a TRV, that it's valid too. So let's go on that premise that you've got a valid visa in your passport to allow you to travel and re-enter, and you've got a valid study permit, and you're going to school, and there's no other issues. So, is there? Can he travel to the U.S. to see his cousins and return back? What are
yeah.
your factors you look at, Alicia?
So the factors would be, okay, you're a citizen of which country, and are you visa required to the US, right? Do you have to have another visitor visa to the US? Because just because you are allowed entry to Canada under a study permit and probably a visa to get here doesn't mean that you have authorization to enter another country. So double check that you are authorized to enter the US. If you need a US visitor visa and you have one, then that would be the first step in terms of the requirements, because otherwise you're going to get in big trouble as soon as you get to the border or try to get on a flight. Um, the other thing is the travel restrictions and the exemptions. So, depending on your vaccination status, you still need to have your double vaccination to get back into Canada and not have to do a pre arrival test. You could still be possibly chosen for a random test. But take a look at what the current travel restrictions are whenever it is that you're planning to travel, because these change all the time, right? There's, it looks like another wave is happening of COVID around the world. So who knows what the situation will be like in a couple months. So there's always a risk on that. And then the next thing is, if you are a full-time student, you have an obligation to maintain your studies. And so if you're going for a long time or you're going outside of a regularly scheduled school break, you may get some questions from that officer about why you're taking a break when you are. I mean, right now it's a lot of schools have March break or spring break, or there might be a session break. So if you're going for a short period of time, you can prove you're coming back, you're actively engaged in studies, you're meeting your study permit conditions, you're authorized to travel to and from Canada, to and from the US, and you've met all your travel restrictions in your ArriveCan app. Um, Hopefully you'll be okay. There's always extra risk when you're leaving the country and trying to re-enter.
Perfect. Okay, this question, let's see if we can pull it up, is from Guillerme. And he says, if I get married post AOR, does that influence my points or just the amount for proof of funds?
So there's a good web page on this as well. And so this is, and I think Mark, you've referred to this lots of
Yeah.
times in your videos, but it's the A11.2 completeness check. And so this is what officers will look at in terms of an express entry assessing an electronic application under, so they're referring to section under the Act of the Immigration Refugee Protection Act 11.2. And if you scroll down, it talks about a change in family composition. And so, yeah, so you have to tell immigration if there's been a material change. If you did get married, um, it depends on when you got married in relationship to when you submitted your complete EAPR. So If you were unmarried, if you were a single person at the time that you completed your EAPR and then you subsequently got married, now you're informing immigration, then you can add, of course, your spouse to your application. It does not affect your points, but it does affect your ability to meet the settlement funds. And it could affect your admissibility if your spouse is medically inadmissible or has any sort of criminality in their background.
Mhm. Yep. Perfect. All right. Well, I think we're just about at the end here. We'll just see if there's any other. We'll pull up Femi here. So Femi says, excuse me, TR to PR, August 21st AOR. So IRCC tech glitch not showing linked applications as linked to IRCC, and my spouse medical assigned to my name, later all sorted by calls and web forms. Application delayed. Any advice? This is one, Femi. Yeah. Alicia, do you want to tackle this one?
I had a really sad case with somebody who booked a consult who had applied on the TR to PR. They thought they were eligible under the international grad stream. They didn't realize that the program had to be 16 months in duration. All of their plan for staying in Canada was all based on the TR to PR. They thought they were getting an acceptance letter, and in fact, they were getting a procedural fairness letter saying you don't qualify for this program. So they are reviewing things. In your case, it doesn't sound, like it doesn't seem that there's any indication that you're not meeting the eligibility. I'm not sure which TR to PR category you applied for, but it sounds like there was a few problems with how your application was linked and how documents were getting uploaded or matched to you or your spouse. Um, I'm not sure if that was maybe when you guys were uploading it that it was improperly attributed to the spouse, or if that was IRCC's maybe error. I don't know. It's good that you've sorted it out by calls and web forms. At least you figured out what happened, but it may now have resulted in delays as they kind of get everything fixed on the back end in immigration's GCMS and in their system. As long as you're sure that you did get it sorted out, that you've answered all their questions and have uploaded the correct information by web form, keep screenshots of everything, that's going to hopefully help keep things on track. Make sure to respond. If you do get a procedural fairness letter, I would advise consulting with a lawyer, because the risk on those procedural fairness letters is not only that your application gets refused, but they think that you've misrepresented, that you were not telling the truth or you were omitting something on your application. So keep an eye out. Make sure you check your email and your account.
Gunnar here says, and I think it's Arsenal, isn't it? Gunnar boy. I think we had this discussion yesterday. Any word on the extension of Postgrad? So I will give you a shout out and say not a word, but trust me, you will be the first to hear the moment we do. Well, if you're watching our videos, we will release that information. But that pretty much wraps up, I think, everything that we have today. I think I don't think we've missed anything here. We'll just turn on this, our little intro music, as the wrap up. But thank you everybody for tuning in today, and those who are wondering how you can get more of Mark and Alicia here, the best way to do it is to go to our website and just click on Speak to a Lawyer. And at any point in time, you can go choose the lawyer you want, choose the consult, and then pick the day and availability. So Alicia's got appointments open for Monday, and that is how easy it is to get specific questions, especially the very detailed legal ones that we're just not able to answer here. That's how we do it. So thank you everybody for tuning in. And remember that this is always sponsored by the Canadian Immigration Institute. And we are going through, I just had someone register last night, which is not bad because all of the videos are accessible. All of the courses are accessible for life, all of the lessons, everything within here. And then, like I said, this is actually going to be launched, I think, the 28th. So this is going to go the 28th through April the 1st, which, hey, I have to start thinking of some April Fool's joke to do on the very last day. Okay, that'll be lots of fun. So spousal sponsorship, CPD accreditation for consultants is available for the Express Entry course, and I'm working on finalizing the details to get disposal sponsorship course and masterclass also CPD accredited for IRCC, RCIC consultants. All right. Thanks, Alicia. Thanks for joining. And thanks to everybody out there. See you next week.